2, 1.
Hi, we are Team 90s, and in today's presentations, me, Gina, and I will explain the expanding of the concept of walkability through the sceneries. So in today's presentations, we will go through the introductions, the theme, the methodologies, as well as the results, and we will discuss a little bit about those results to find the conclusions. First is the introductions. In the introductions, we will introduce you our cities where we live. As you could see from those pictures, the places where we live are very different, both in size and how it looks. And that's why we want to focus on how our cities are structured and how much they need to offer in terms of greens and open space.
Thus, our topic is the importance of a scenery, and we want to find out what effect scenery has and share our experiences. I will explain our design method. We did fieldwork studies in our 3 cities, taking photos, walking, sometimes smelling, and we sometimes recorded. In this section, I'm going to talk about my city, Kunitachi, in Tokyo, Japan. There is a comprehensive train line services in all of Tokyo, but Kunitachi City is a little bit far from the central district area. I live in a suburb residential area. I moved here end of this March. I spent half a year here. This place is nice to live. Here's Kunitachi. It is located in the middle of Tokyo, but it's not in the central district. It takes about 40 minutes to my Meiji University by train. And my apartment is located in the middle of 2 stations. Around the station, I heard a lot of sounds. Sometimes I heard some piano sounds in the station. And around the residential area, there are some crying babies. We can know what kind of people live in a city by the sounds they make. I took some pictures around my house. Along the sidewalk, there are some benches. I took this picture in the early morning, but in the daytime, we can see more people sit here. And the cafes have some plants and flowers, which make the city more vivid. And around Hitotsubashi University, there are so many bikes, but they have wide sidewalks. These are some street elements which make streets more fun. The signboard on the road show that people use road as one of the public spaces. Retail has show windows which show people activities along the railway, and some lights in the nighttime. It spreads to the public space. Basically, I like Kunitachi City, and the walkability is very high, I think. But unfortunately, it still has some bad conditions also. Kind of blocked pedestrian street and narrow streets are not good for walking in terms of the visibility and the permeability. The last picture said school zone with green pavement, which it means for drivers to pay attention to the children, but there is no sidewalks and no public space. These are pictures what I have taken from the field work based on observation.
All right, the next case that we will look at is Passau in Germany. And from the picture here, which is of the central city, you can probably already tell that it's very different from Tokyo. Most people of you have probably never heard of Passau, so I first want to go through some basics. It is a city right at the Austrian border, and it has around 52,000 inhabitants, so a lot less than Tokyo, and 12,000 of those are university students, which already shows, I think, how important the university is in the city. And you can also see that the density of population is a lot lower than in Tokyo. The city is nicknamed City of Three Rivers because there are actually 3 rivers that meet at the tip of Passau, and they have very important influence, or they're a very important part of the city life and also the scenery. If you look at the city map, you can already see that there's a lot of green spaces right outside of the city. So if I want to go to nature areas, then I can walk for half an hour and I'm right outside the city. But in terms of within the city, I have about a 15-minute walk to the city center and to university. And in the city center, it's actually an old town. So there's not a lot of cars there. It's fairly calm. You will hear a lot of church bells because there's a lot of churches. But something that we have quite a lot in the northern part is that there's a lot of boat tours. So the boats will leave their engines on when they're just waiting for the tourists to come back. And it will be very noisy and smelly in those areas, but the rest is quite calm. And then you have the university area, which is quite close to the city center, right next to the river. And that's actually a really, really nice and quiet area. Now, I talked about the different areas for a bit, but I actually want to show you the ways I usually walk. So let's look at the different areas. This is actually the area I live in. So in the middle, this is all Main Street. It's quite small. But this is the street I live in. I walk through here all the time, and we have actually a lot of supermarkets here and post stations, so you kind of have everything you need close by. And you can also see that houses are quite colorful, and we actually have flower beds on every street corner, so that is also quite nice to look at. But of course, the really nice part of Passau is the city center. And you can see here that we have a lot of like small streets with cobblestones, old buildings with signs, and a lot of churches, as I've mentioned before. So that's a really nice area to walk in. And of course, also because there's so little cars, you have a lot of space to walk in. The second picture shows the riverside. So as soon as you come to the river, there's green everywhere. And you have a lot of benches and playgrounds, and people actually spend a lot of their free time here in summer. So when you walk down this pathway, you will always meet someone you know. Then, of course, we also have a lot of town squares with really nice cafes and restaurants that put out flower pots, and those are also really nice spaces to sit down and relax. And in the last picture, you can see this is a summer festival, because at the tip of Passau, there's actually a big field, and a lot of cultural events take place here. And it's a really nice social area for cultural events. Now, of course, for me and other students, the most important part of the city is the campus. And here in the middle, you can see the most, well, sought out place to hang out after university by students. This is the field right in front of the university. And people go here for barbecues, to meet others, to read. This is a very social place, and actually during Corona, it was restricted to go there because too many people went there all the time. But this summer, we actually were able to have a little concert, and this is where this picture was taken. But we also, of course, have like quieter areas on campus. So on the left, you can see this is behind a building, just to relax and sit down, and you can see it's also quite green. And then on the right, these are the pathways of the university. And you can see they're quite wide. There's also a lot of bike racks because a lot of people come to university by bike also, and also very green as well. Now, as I said, the university is right at the riverside, and so the river is very visible from all campus. And so the first picture here is actually the view from the cafeteria, which I think is quite nice. And then the other two pictures are the walkway along the river, and you can see it's really a nice place to walk along. And a lot of people actually come there, and especially students come there even in their free time. And they spend time on campus to just walk alongside the river, or go jogging, or to sit down and read a book, or hang out with friends. So you can see that the walkability within the campus and the city center is really high, and people really enjoy spending time outside.
And now it's the case of Vietnam in Ha Long cities. As you can see, it's really different from the other two cities. Now let's have a closer look at the map of Ha Long. As you can see, Ha Long is a very beautiful city in the north part of Vietnam. And from the maps, you could see that Ha Long have a really strange structures where the two parts of the cities are connected by a bridge. And also the populations is only 300,000 overall compared to the size of city, which is more than 1,000 kilometer square. And the city is most known for the Halong Bay, one of the biggest tourist destinations in the world. Now let's have a closer look at the most important part of the cities, the city centers. Here are some pictures of the city centers. Because this is a city center, so of course there are noises in the peak times. However, the city center is built near the sea, so it looks more open to the nature. Also, there's a huge part next to the cities, which create a green space inside the center areas. This also increases the walkabilities as people could easily go to the beach and walk to the park to have picnics during their free times. And now here is the area that I live. Here's the distance from my house to my office. Because I'm currently studying online and work part-time in this place, so I'm gonna talk about this place. So as you can see, the way to get to the workplace is a little bit inconvenience as I have to walk through the city centers, the schools, and the market, especially during the peak times. And therefore, every time I go to work, I also face with traffic congestions as well as noises from transport, the school, and the market. And here are some examples of the traffic congestions. And the traffic congestions in my cities normally happen around 4 p.m. every day. As you can see, there are a lot of cars and motorbikes and no public transport. And it's really hard to go to the other side of the street in the peak times like this. Despite of all the noises and traffic issues, we also have a lot of open spaces around the cities, including the beach inside the cities and a huge sidewalks, which can be used as a park. And the beach as well as the sidewalk is really close to the main residential areas. So people can easily get access to those open space and have a good time together. And now let's move on to the discussions where we will briefly compare our cities to find out the differences as well as the similarities of those cities.
In Tokyo is a big city and it has many cars and many people. In terms of the urban structure, only specific areas have been developed. And my city, Kunitachi, residential area, has many comfortable public open spaces.
In comparison to Tokyo, Passau is a very small city with a lot of short ways to walk, so you don't really need a car. We have a lot of beautiful scenery within the center and on campus, and also a lot of really calm green spaces. So a lot of social life happens outside.
Similar to Passau, Halong is also a small city, but people using car and motorbike more rather than the public transport. So it's lead to the traffic jams happen all the time. Despite of all those issues, there are also open spaces around the cities, which is really easy to get for people to get access.
So as you can see, something that all these places have in common are their public and green spaces. And of course, now we ask ourselves how this is relevant. And we can see from research that there is a lot of evidence that mental health is connected to green spaces. So scientific research shows that green spaces help with mental health, including the possibility of exercising and interacting with others, and therefore have quite a lot of importance. Now, to conclude from all of that, we can actually see that scenery, when we go back to our actual theme of this presentation, holds quite a lot of importance. And once, of course, for the higher quality of walkability, so we also will want to spend more time outside if things look nice. And then, of course, we have more chances for social interacting, both planned social interaction where we go outside with friends and also unplanned ones where we meet people outside because we all spend more time outside. Now, all of these elements have an impact on mental health and can lead to better mental health. And additionally, of course, if we talk about green spaces, we can also see that they're really important for a sustainable city and environment. So we really have a double importance of green and open spaces. And it is really important for cities to invest in them and recognize their value for their cities. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you all for listening, and we hope it was interesting.